it is a real kind of sad state of mind where I didn't get much riding in. But it also drives me to, like you were talking about, setting a schedule.
Yeah.
And with my new work, there's no reason I can't plan. I can't leave the city limits, even if I do finish with all my inspections.
Really?
Nope. You can't leave the city limits, so I can't ride, but I'm still on the clock. But I man the phones, and then I kind of get ready for the next day. That's what I do. But I think I can do, like, man the phones, do a little yoga, do some push-ups, waiting for the phone to ring, whatever. So
you're at a corporate office somewhere, or is this at home?
My house, my corporate office.
You're home. You're doing this all out of the house, so you can work at home.
Yep. No more city hall for us.
Nice. You got to take home that other Wahoo trainer, like tonight.
Well, I'll make a trade sometime. Otherwise, just in case she goes, let me have that trainer, your wife. And
nobody knows that we said this on the last show, and Michelle's not going to listen, so we can say this, that we're going to swap out a bad trainer for my wife. So she knows it's always there. She won't get on it. She's not an idiot. She won't ride indoors because it's stupid. It sucks. It's horrible.
It does.
And why would you do it if you're not training for a bike race?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you go walk or something like that. We got a treadmill and stuff like that. She's getting into running and hiking a lot more than she used to. So,
well, getting back to that, the thing is I was wondering why I didn't ride so much, but I think COVID, as I've mentioned, races actually are my motivation. And I really haven't had much motivation with COVID. Everything was shut down, and then I was getting pretty jacked until the smoke rolled in and that stamped us out, and then COVID again. So
I don't want to be a pissant, but I think we're going to have smoke every year for the remainder of our days on this planet.
At least in this area,
Northwest. Yeah.
Did you see? I've seen the thing recently that was saying that this is the hottest summer in years. But then I saw something that was like correcting it and saying, actually, this is the coldest summer we're going to see in years.
Oh, we're going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to get fucking hotter.
Yeah. And so it kind of, not to bring it down again, but it kind of looks you in the eye, or it looks you straight in the eyes and goes, well, can get worse.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. Well, I'm all up for that. I have no problems with 100 degrees.
I have problems with 100 degrees.
We met that in San Diego.
Holy shit. Speaking of Strava, I actually wasn't through Strava. I went through my Wahoo because I was thinking, well, if Sam has 5,000, I wonder what my season looks like. And I'm just shy of 3,000, which is okay.
Probably pretty close then.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? I mean, spaced out. No, the heat. Yeah, I looked up the ride of the Belgian waffle ride, and I think the lowest it was
86.
Yeah, it was 86, and the
when
highest
you rolled out.
And then it got to 114. Almost 115 at one point.
I remember the moment that it got to 115.
Yeah, it showed where I was on the course too when
it
was hot like that, and it was in those horrible dry dead hills.
You were gonna die.
Yeah. Holy
totally
shit.
exposed.
Oh God, and no water. Fuck, so many mistakes. So many mistakes. So I'm working on organizing my shit to settle into these winter months. I am going to start. This is an unpaid endorsement. I'm starting on a system. Wahoo SYSTM, formerly known as the Sufferfest plan. It's going to include riding, strength, and
mental.
No, I'm not into the mental. I need the mental. I seriously do. But I started the mental a while ago. I mean, about a year ago, just to see what it was like, and it's just
too close to Bull Durham. You remember that scene? They had the psychiatrist. Losing is a disease.
Yeah. It was better than that. I mean, it is legit shit. I mean, but legit shit. I shouldn't say that. That sounds like an insult. But it just seems a little too for me. Like finding your inner Mount Sufferlandria, and I'm like, this is probably a serious problem, and I need to talk to somebody in therapy about it. But I'm just like I'm being too macho about it. So I am on that other side going to do yoga for dummies because although I've got to figure out a way to get the screen closer so I don't have to look up, because Abby, the girl who does the yoga classes, speaks so quickly, and with my childhood dyslexia, the left and right thing, she's going like, put your left foot behind your right ear and put your elbow down to the ground, and the right
you need to start
index finger to your pinky layer, and I'm just going, huh? And I'm looking up, and by the time I look up and see what she's doing, she's into another pose, and so it's hard for me. And I should follow Gabriel.
Yeah.
yoga for cyclists. And he does some really good shit too. So I should never bash what Gabriel does. And I think I want to Zwift race once or twice a month. I don't know.
Good luck with that.
You're not going to do it?
No.
You're not going to touch Zwift?
I'm not touching Zwift.
Okay.
System, I will.
You will?
Yeah.
Good.
As soon as I get a trainer that
we
works.
can make Paul do a 4DP test.
Can you?
Well, it's kind of a good thing to do, especially if you get involved with it. You want to know what
you gotta
all those numbers are, so
foundation.
you can actually do something.
That's your base. That's where it builds what you need to do on top of that. So it's like, so here we go. I've also incorporated a diet to reduce my summertime calories as I swirl my beer in a circle. I'm up about 3 to 4 pounds, and people are probably thinking, holy shit, it's been like a month. And yeah, I've more or less gained a pound a week, and I'm not sitting in my couch with a gallon of ice cream, just, like Ben Stiller in the end of Dodgeball or something like that. But apparently I gain weight pretty easily. It's a gift I have, so I got to work on that. So that's my life now. Yeah, adulthood for me is sad and boring. So yeah, I guess that's it. Do we jump to the headlines after that? After my depressing bullshit?
Well, I can add more to that depressing bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
So muscle weighs twice as much as fat. So if you're not working out and you gain weight, some of that you could be losing.
I'm losing muscle.
Yeah. So the fat that you gain, if you lose like 1 pound of muscle, 1 pound of fat, you're broke even. But if you're gaining weight and not riding, you've lost more muscle than you have.
So my muscles are staying the same, and I'm just gaining fat.
You hope. If you're riding and exercising, if you don't move and get off your ass, that weight gain is lost muscle and gained fat.
I used to say muscle weighs more than fat when I was trying to defend my weight.
As you rub the belly.
Wow, I haven't lost any weight this winter, but muscle weighs more than fat. So I probably lost weight, but I'm just gaining more muscle. Right?
Yeah.
Not a bad way to think of it.
Go with me on this one, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are the reason that I'm a fucking psychopath. I just want you guys to know that.
Fat shame you.
Seriously, yeah. It started with Simply Huge, which you came up with, man. Yeah,
I will take none of this credit. I have stayed silent the whole time.
You're just awkward over there going.
I will accept none of the fat shame.
Just pray for Mom's gene pool. Oh. We're checking the headlines, you guys, brought to you by our friends at Mojo Cyclery. Get to your local bike shop to support the sport. Mojo has been hit with insult and injury, you guys. They're recently flooded by a neighbor's fucking mop sink. They had to close for a spell. Show some love, Spokanites. We need great shops like Mojo, and if you guys are not in the Spokane area, get to your LBS, right? I think we could all agree with that one. So, story number one, I entitled, You've Got to Be Kidding Me. And I don't want to dwell too long on this, but this is news, and this is something that probably should be discussed. In case you haven't heard about it, Scott Morris, the former managing director of USA Crits, has spoken publicly for the first time since it was announced that Safe Sport temporarily suspended him for allegations of misconduct. Yeah. In an interview with Cycling News, Morris claimed USA Cycling were aware that he faced charges relating to child pornography 2 years ago. Both Morris and USA Crits founder Gene Dixon have provided conflicting information as to whether they ever discussed Morris's past, while both men have claimed that certain teams are exploiting Morris's past in order to benefit. I'll let you take that one in for a second. Both have also dismissed and strongly denied accusations made by the LA Sweat team that Morris used inappropriate behavior towards female riders in 2019. On Sunday, it was reported that Morris was fired when the news of his past was shared throughout social media. Several U.S.-based cycling teams decided to remove themselves from the USA Crits with immediate effect, while a number of high-profile races made the same decision soon after, including nearby us Boise and also Tulsa Tough. I don't necessarily want to get into the legal issues here, let alone discuss the ramifications of this guy's actions, or judging somebody guilty before their time in court, or judging somebody as being a fucking slimeball before, there we go. So
due process.
Yes, but it needs to be addressed. How can and I'm sorry to throw you guys under this bus without even prepping you for this, but what are your thoughts on organizing, keeping somebody on the payroll in a high-profile position that is facing such charges, especially if there was a speculation that they knew about it up to 2 years ago? Does anybody have any thoughts? I know it doesn't really relate to bike racing, but it has a gigantic implication on bike racing.
I think a lot of these stories are kind of have been coming out for a while, of actions that have been taken by people who are in the higher ups of organizations that have done a lot of bad things, that have gotten away with it for a really long time. And it's just kind of disheartening to see a lot of the people that are doing these things, and I think that this is one of the cases that should not be taken lightly. I don't blame a lot of the people that are pulling out of this of the series. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be associated with that either, but it also, to me, kind of like signals this shift of like individual races taking on their own individual like persona. They don't have to be a part of a series anymore. They can be their own individual thing, which in essence could be an exciting thing that comes out of this. You kind of get like each race being put on individually, which makes it that like it can create its own culture, like Tulsa Tough has. So I hope that comes out of it. But yeah, it's a disappointing situation.
It seems like the whole concept of the series is more of a, you sign up, these top teams in the country are traveling to an entire series. It's like a tour for a rock band or something like that. Whereas we can all agree that something like Tulsa Tough is such a standalone event that the top riders in the world are going to go to it. Are the top riders in the world, in the country, region, whatever it is, going to drive all the way to Boise, Idaho if there's not a
point
tour, so to speak, and point systems and something on the line that might be kind of approaching that? So that's a tough one to kind of roll with. Paul?
Well, in all walks of life, as we've seen, whether they're doctors or like I'm thinking of the U.S. gymnastic debacle there. These POSs are out there that do these things. It's awful. I've shared personally. It's affected my family and stuff.
Absolutely.
So I won't go deep in there. But it's now a bigger crime for me for those who have the knowledge of these people being that way.
Yeah.
Or even have a past that you're willing to step aside and let them be involved with. If you know somebody has a record or a past, that should be a question. And it is up to you to hire. I really believe if you want to hire somebody with the past that Morris had, then you're going to land on your sword when it comes out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You deserve that.
Yeah.
And that's just my take on it. It's those who trying to protect the POSs of this world or shade it because they're using them for their benefit. They're just as equal and evil to me. Yeah. So. And it's unfortunate that, like you said, the USA Cycling or the Crit series, it was such a good thing. We were talking about Tulsa Tough, and it's like, just seeing these guys come by and Tulsa Tough, and then they'll be at Boise, which is like 600 miles away.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it's right there. And 3 years ago, you and I talked to Spokane, Greater Spokane Sports Association, and possibly trying to get something rolling
and a stop on this tour.
In that. Yeah. Boy, I'm glad that didn't work out.
Well,
getting part of that.
But there's a thing that putting together bike races, and I would be willing to pursue to make something like that happen again. But we're and with that in mind, would you guys, if let's say you had a race on your calendar, if we wanted to go to Tulsa, and they were still a part of that USA Crit series, would you attend?
For me, it would have to be those people. It has to be that far enough along on the investigation that those who knew about his past or whatever he's done or whatever, they're gone. If that is a clean sweep and start from scratch, I'll put faith in there and say, okay, you got rid of the weeds.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But right now, I think there's way too much, and you always wonder how much is covering up. Real people are covering their trails right away. I mean, as soon as the word come out, oh shit,
Yeah.
So it may take years for that to clear out.
Go ahead. No, did you have something? I really don't understand the concept of the if and again, we're all receiving knowledge via online news sources. It sounds like Cycling News got a pretty good interview with him, with Mr. Morris. He was incredibly blunt and was not flattering to himself in his responses. He sounded worse than me on this podcast in terms of his profanity and things like that. I don't think that's an incredibly professional way to handle yourself when you're talking about something like your innocence. Mm-hmm. He sounds pissed. But I don't understand how an organization could have knowledge of something like this over several years and still continue to maintain that agreement, that
I agree.
Especially in such a high profile position. I also, think innocent until proven guilty. Morris is claiming that these accusations by these members of what's the team, LA Sweat, are angry with him because he made some changes in the series and they're pissed at him, so they're lashing out at him. And I'm sure there are cases of people who jump to the gun, of a Crucible, Arthur Miller Crucible. By the way, I'm a theater director. The children dangling the keys to the kingdom, where they can just accuse anybody of witchcraft and then they're automatically accused. Sure, that these things are going to happen, but it just sounds like there are too many ducks in a row here that are leading towards this guy. So again, I don't want to, and I think if you still, as a human being listening to this show, still have your intentions to attend the USA Crit events that are part of that chain, all the best to you. I hope the best for the series, not the individuals. I hope the best for the series, because I think it's a great thing for the sport, and it fucking pisses me off. Is it just me? And I do not mean to diminish the seriousness of the charges brought up against this man or anything involved, but is it just me, or is there a gigantic amount of drama in this crit series? Beyond what I'm seeing in the professional peloton, with somebody hates somebody doesn't like the other thing, somebody's in trouble with something, doping, man, there is so much shit stirring in this USA Crit series. Is it just me, or is anybody else noticing it? It's like a fucking soap opera.
I mean, so have you ever watched American sport?
No.
Because
I mean, like American sports, or is there a TV show called American Sport?
No. I mean, like, just American sport, like, in general.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the sports
NASCAR drivers hate each other, and football players are douchebags.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just an American way of sport,
really,
in general, is what I think. I don't know. I think that giving individuals who play a sport a platform such as social media, it's gonna come out, and it's gonna make it way more exciting. Because if you've ever watched reality TV,
sure,
do you watch because of the genuine human connection, or do you watch because two people are getting really pissed off at each other? I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So I think people are bothered by one another. They're racing so close together throughout the entire season. However, it's also, how can we make this more entertaining?
Yeah,
it's certainly a part of our American kind of little pop culture. Is it?
Do you predominantly think it's an American ideal?
I think it's all over. I mean, Twitter. We were talking about a Twitter account, and it's giving people voices. Everybody should be heard, but they shouldn't be able to manipulate and throw somebody under the bus that doesn't deserve it. I think, I don't know, freedom of speech is a great responsibility as long as you use it properly, and it can't be abused.
Yeah.
So
Spider-Man quote.
Yeah.
Great power, great
power.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's unfortunate. Social media, I think, has some positive things, and I think it was started off with good intentions, and then there's a lot of people who, you hear, I don't know, reality TV is something that I'm like, this isn't real.
Yeah.
It's soft script.
It's,
they want
yeah.
because they use words like twist, or they had like all these little terms. It's like it's I think United States is the worst. We're the largest voyeurs of the world. Our movie stars, our athletes that we idolize. We wear T-shirts with jerseys, spend $100 that say Jordan on the back, or
Yeah.
And we are a nation of idol worshipers, and we like to see our idols fall for some reason, or those that are lifted up. Mm-hmm. So it's hopefully we'll start kind of tapering down, but I
don't think it's ever going to taper down.
God, it's just sometimes annoying to you hate to even
when you've got I think the celebrity, and I think like you say, social media is going to create, everybody now has their own voice. I don't know them personally, but I noticed that a lot of this stuff, kind of these pot stirrers, is the people associated with the Legion's team in this soap opera that is USA Crits.
When you got the big platform,
they do. They're an amazing team, and they're kicking absolute ass, and they're fast, and their results speak for themselves. But boy, and there are accusations that they are, and again, true or false, whatever they may be. I'm just saying that there are accusations that they are trying. It is a kind of a power grab in many cases when Legion comes out and says first that they will not be attending the USA Crit Series.
Oh,
is this to bury somebody, or is this because of his actions? So I don't. It's fucking crazy. And I'm sure it's going to all play out, and it's all going to play out in the media, and we're all going to be first front row seat to it, and it's going to probably put a slight black eye once again on the sports cycling, and that's all we need. That's really all we need. Please God, let somebody dope too. Because I can handle doping accusations. It's pedophilia. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on. So next story, let's move on to something better. The tour is already here, you guys. Well, at least the route. The route of the 109th edition of the Tour de France was unveiled last Thursday in Paris, a total of 3,328 kilometers between the Danish capital of Copenhagen and Paris. Await the riders from July 1st to the 24th and include favorites like the Alpe d'Huez, the Glibier, and even some cobblestones. What? That's cue number 2. What?
Nice delay.
6 flat stages, 7 hilly stages, and 6 mountain stages. Total, the riders face 53K against the clock. Also returns to the cobbles in northern France for the first time since 2018. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to, Paul, we were talking before we went on the air. You saw kind of the unveiling ceremony, so to speak, where we made a joke about European guys in really nice suits and sneakers. And your thoughts, anybody have any thoughts on the route itself, cobblestones, and actually I'll ask your thoughts on the route, and if cobblestones truly indeed belong in a grand tour. Let's put this one to rest.
Well, according to Lefebvre, he doesn't think, he thinks it's gimmickry, but he also doesn't like the Paris tours either, because they started going through wine country. I'm thinking this is a classic team. I think that's kind of strange, but nevertheless, I wouldn't want to see. And I think the last time it was in the tour. Was it 3 years ago? It's good to have once in a while, because it's all about. Listen, it's tons of miles, actual days on the bike. What, 20 days on the bike, or 21 or whatever?
21.
Yeah,
because 2 rest days.
2 rest days.
Yeah, so 23
stages,
days. Yeah.
So it is an endurance and a well-rounded. So you have to time trial, but you don't. Everybody complains about the route. There's too much time trials. Time trials shouldn't be in there. Well, how about mountains? There's some, give the mountain climbers a try, a chance. So put in a lot of mountains, and it's no one's happy. No one's ever happy. To me, it's good to mix it up, throw in some cobbles to see if this person's an all-around person, some time trials, short ones, maybe hardly any, and then next year add a couple more. Some of the complaints are that, some of the contenders are going to crash on the cobbles and be out. Well, some lady with a sign that says, could do the same. It doesn't matter, or an overlap wheel. But I think, even as an amateur, when I go to a race, if it's a stage race, whatever's thrown at me, I've got to figure out a way to get around it, survive it, or whatever. It's not about putting little pillows and, cushions and.
We'll make it all soft and friendly until you get to the mountains.
Yeah.
Well, and you look at Egan Bernal, who knew exactly what was in store at the Giro this year, and he rode Strada Bianca because of it. And I do recall, if I'm not wrong, Vincenzo Nibali doing several cobble recon the year he won the Tour.
Yep.
And Chris Froome crashed out on the cobbles. So
2014.
Yeah.
I think it creates a competition for the best all-around rider, like we were talking about in the Giro, which you just brought up. And part of me wonders if it will be won by like an Egan Bernal. I don't know if there's any taking down Pogacar right now. I think that he's at the top, but I think it is. It creates a race that's not just for that a climber's not just going to win, which is exciting to me. Because if we look at all of the races of the past years, Bernal won the Giro, Pogacar won the Tour, and Roglic won the Vuelta. All three would technically be classified as a climber. So it could create an interesting all-arounder type of a tour, which I'm excited for.
How many stages until Geraint Thomas crashes?
One.
What?
I saw an interesting thing. I listened to his podcast. He's got one he's got two of them actually. He's got
Watts occurring.
With Luke Rowe, but he's got another one. It's kind of like this club thing, and it dropped like 2 days ago or yesterday or something, and he's just talking about like this accidents. He didn't really want to dwell on it that much, but and he's like the one in the Criterion Dauphiné. Remember when his hand? I think that's what it was.
Oh yeah,
froze.
His hands you couldn't feel, and he goes, I look like a dork. I mean, he's a good sport.
Yeah.
And then in the Tour, it was just a little speed bump that he had his hands loose and went over the top. It was his fault, and he admits it. And that's when he dislocated his shoulder and stuff. But I saw somebody goes, why is he's always going over the top, but if you look at his position, he sits forward quite a bit. So if that is, your pressure point right there, if you lose control of your hand slipping off or you hit a bump and your hands go off, you have one direction, you're going over the top, and that's where you break collarbones, separate shoulders, that type of thing. So I wonder if that's part of it. I mean, a lot of people crash, get back up, and you think, oh, he's been down.
Yeah.
But with him, it's like, holy shit,
he
messed up.
Again?
Yeah, he went down.
Yeah,
he's messed up.
So there we go. I mean, I hope they all stay upright, but they won't. Speaking of Tour de France director Christian Prudhomme made a long-awaited confirmation that Amaury Sport Organization will launch a women's Tour de France avec Zwift. That scared the fuck out of me at first. I was like, oh shit, they're putting the women just on Zwift? Oh, son of a bitch. Hell hath no fury. This shit is, they're going to burn it all down. And I wouldn't have blamed them. But Zwift announced that it's going to become the title sponsor of the Tour de France, Femmes avec Zwift, that will be held July 24th through 31st. In 2022, beginning on the Champs-Élysées in conjunction with the final stage of the men's tour. Let me look at that. Men's tour.
So they take off after the men finishes. They take off from Paris. So that gets
from there on out.
Yeah.
Oh,
so they start out at Paris. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And then they continue on. So there's no break.
Yeah. We just
we get that Tour de France. Now what are we going to do? Hangover.
Yeah.
We even talked about it last time.
Yeah. Oh, we get it every year.
Now we're going into 8 days of still more
8
racing.
more days of racing. that's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah, and it's like when we had Anna Mariah on. You know, the thing I thought was cool about Paris-Roubaix is having the women's the day before, as opposed to like a little bit before at
the same time.
At the same time,
worse. Yeah.
They start and they do like a small portion, like Tour of Flanders. The Flanders Classics had more women's racing, but I think it was Ghent-Wevelgem or something. The men had to, or the women caught up with the men. They had to neutralize the women at one point.
Yeah.
You know, so now you don't have any. The girls are on there; they're doing their stuff, and you don't have to worry about everybody's going to be. Hopefully, people will be back on the road. They don't have to like repack up, and they can extend their watch.
Should we be happy that it's happening and not complain that it's only 8 stages, that there's no stage over 200K, that the television coverage is probably going to be limited and short? I mean, should I bring those topics up, or should we not bite the hand that feeds us?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we all know they're there, you know.
Prize list, it's €250 versus €750 for the men.
Yeah. I mean, I in my eyes, I think we all know that they're there, and I think that there is a conversation to be had about all that stuff. Yeah. You know, it's an annoying one in terms of the fact that this shouldn't even be the way it is when we start out.
Sure.
However, I find that it's great that these races are finally taking place. Finally, I put the emphasis on finally, just because it did take a little too long to have the first women's tour. But should it be extended to kind of equal that 3-week thing? Yeah, because I don't know if there are. I don't think there are very many women's tours out there that are a full 3 weeks. So
no,
I think it's about time that this is a great starting point. But where can it go from there?
Okay. Yeah.
I always believe in, no matter what, always start slowly and small. Yeah. And work, whether it has nothing to do with being women. It's good that this is introduced. I think we can assess, or that it should be assessed, not like I have any part of it. ASO should assess and get writer feedback and directors. And, you know, that is what they're going to base. Is like, you know what, we want 10 next time. Or let's have longer stages. It's good at 8, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I think this is a good, since it's kind of an extension of the tour, that they're kind of pointing in the right direction. It's not going to be flawless, and no one's going to be happy, because there's already, some of the girls were happy that there was a gravel section. There's a gravel section in it, and some of them are like, no, don't like it.
Yeah.
Well, that happens with the men too.
Sure. And it is a step forward after a gigantic step back. I remember the year Marianne Martin won the inaugural Tour de France Féminine in 84. Okay.
It was. Mm-hmm.
And to my recollection, it was, if not 3 weeks, it was close. And I didn't do my research on this. I don't recall. Was it 2 weeks?
I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it was a lot longer than 8 stages. And so in essence, we are taking a step back, but at least there's a beginning. There were 2 steps back, and now we're maybe taking 1 step forward to get closer to where we need to be. And you know, I can't speak for the women of women's cycling, because I'm not a woman of women's cycling, and you know, we got a panel full of guys here. On Mariah, you know, I'm sure if I could ask her to send me a statement or something like that, because I, you know, and it sounds like a lot of people are very happy about this. And we, again, do we bite the hand that feeds us, or do we just take this now and hope we grow from here on out? I hope we take it and grow from here on out. There. Next story is going to lead us into the topic. This one's specifically for Paul. Tadej Pogačar has mastered the art of switching between disc brakes and rim brakes with the weight of his bike, and not for weather conditions being the decisive factor for his final choice. The UAE Team Emirates rider used a rim braked equipped Colnago V3 RS to win. No, used. Yeah. Okay. To win Lombardia, while a few days earlier he made a long-range attack at the Trevally Varecine race. Okay, I hope I got that correct. On a disc brake bike.
He only got third then.
Oh, Oh, but he made the attack there.
Yeah.
Okay.
See what I'm going?
Yeah. He won Liège-Bastogne-Liège on disc brakes. Happy to switch between back and forth in the Tour de France. He attacked alone and ran and won a mountain stage in Le Grand Bernard in the Alps, but switched to a rim brake bike to win the mountain stop Pyrenean stage in Saint-Laurent-Soulan in the dry. So, I guess, should I just go straight into the topic? How far are we at? Well, 47 minutes. I should go straight into the topic. And I just, Paul, do you want to comment while I turn pages?
Well, I'm cracking another beer open.
All right. Okay, our topic brought to us by our friends at Competitive Cyclists, you guys. Yeah, I know I said support the LBS a few minutes ago, and please do that. But if you can't find it locally, get it to Competitive Cyclist. Use Packfiller link to show some love, okay? But please, God, support local bike shops. But there are a lot of items you can't find at your LBS. Ask them first, though. We're going to attempt to yet again solve the cycling world's problems on our topic today. So let's get to the solutions, shall we? And this story about disc brakes and Tadej Pogačar switching back and forth kind of inspired it for me, along with a very popular topic we spoke about last week. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of feedback from several listeners saying, you guys hit a hot button, unintentionally as it may have been, talking about the extreme cost of bicycle racing and talking about why it's become so out of control and why there's no attempt by the industry to create some form of a middle ground. And there's also another topic that brought me into it, talking about solving all cycling's problem, is a question that was posed to the Facebook group of the upcoming revival of the 24 Hours of Riverside, which a friend of mine and I are going to promote this year. It's a 24-hour race format. Issues that arose are in terms of e-bikes in racing. So my first issue I want to bring up before we get into creating the ultimate, technological bike advantage is dealing with e-bikes in racing. And it was asked about that format, and the issues that arose during that are skills of e-bike racers, and they're potentially getting into speeds and sections that are beyond their skill set. That was one of the main complaints. Also passing issues on mountain bikes, where you run into a single track section and you're trying to pass somebody on an e-bike and somebody of lesser skills and qualities. I am not vouching for one side or the other, but do you guys think, number one, e-bike racing should even be a thing at all? I'm just saying e-bike racing as it exists in any way, shape, or form. You can be honest, and people might hate you for it, but fuck them.
I think e-bike racing is fine, but I think it is only e-bike racing. I think if you try and race a non-assisted bike against one that is, there's no competition.
Sure.
I've seen another content creator, the vegan cyclist, go up against his wife who was on a e-bike, and he is like a cat
He's
1,
cat
2.
one.
Yeah. And he just got absolutely smoked. Like, there was no competition. So it's if that's any indication of what these bikes can do, there is no, it's like comparing apples and oranges, but I think they do belong in their own separate category, racing against one another. For instance, Tom Pidcock is technically the world champion of e-bike racing, and but not of regular mountain bike racing. And I like that there is a separate category for it, but I don't think they should be compared to one another because they are so drastically different.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah.
I think I don't think they should ever be ran at the same time. They should have certainly a different category. And as you as a promoter, I don't know how you're gonna be able to do that. That's a can of worms.
Issue we're running into is it would be a separate category. It would 1,000% be a separate category.
Yeah,
but if you've got riders on the same course at the same time,
that's where the problem comes
in. The issues are arising.
And when you were mentioning that, trying to pass on a single track, I was coming home from work today, going up Bernard, which we're really familiar with, but it's not a steep climb. There's a guy with a fat bike, e-bike, with racks. The thing probably weighs 70 pounds, and he's just like, he's almost staying with traffic because now it's 20 miles an hour by Manitoba Park. He's passing cars in the bike lane, and he looks like no helmet.
Yeah.
And I don't, that's his choice. That's fine. But I'm thinking, you know what? People aren't going to see you. This creates
what are you doing, you moron?
But you know.
It will be soon.
Yeah, that's right. He'll be drilling in a bucket here soon.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just one of those things that I'm thinking, you know, for me, even in the early season when we're not really going fast and you're training and you get in your first race and you're like, oh, shit. Your mind has to make this adjustment to that speed. And I think that's what's going to happen, like, you know, when you're promoting an e-bike. I got an e-bike. Shit, I can go out there. They don't. And maybe most of them do know the rules, you know, kind of like the unwritten rules of passing on the left and, you know, that type of thing. But I think to mix them up is not a good thing. I don't mind if they're in their own category in their own race, but wow.
Yeah. I can guarantee there are some people out there who own e-bikes. I know my friend Chris Andreasen, who's been on the show several times, owns multiple shops here in the city, and he rides his for a downhill type of experience. They'll ride it and then they'll actually haul ass downhill, and these guys are incredible bike riders.
Yes.
So we can't necessarily say that all e-bike riders are going to be, you know, moms and pops on bikes they purchased. But I agree. I mean, and you know,
I guess that brings up a good point. You got somebody like that is one thing, but when you have somebody on an e-bike who hasn't developed that skill and they're doing the speed of like somebody who isn't on an e-bike, like somebody who's been doing it for a while, and they're able to maintain that, knowing, you know, the line or going into a corner and taking that corner, they just don't have that experience. But they're doing your speed and you're dealing with this person that has, it's like taking when I go down and you do a lower category, a citizen race, that's, you know, I've been racing for 36 years and like, Jesus, I'm going to die here, you know, because it's not that they're bad people or anything. They just don't know what to do in these high-speed situations. They're taking weird lines and everything.
And it's a 24-hour race. You're out on a course with somebody at 4 o'clock in the morning, and everybody's sleep-deprived, and somebody's going to make some dumb choices. Yeah, some of those guys are going to be drinking. I
think an interesting aspect to a 24-hour e-bike race, though, is the battery life amount. Because ultimately,
you should only get one charge.
God, wouldn't that make it interesting? Lugging like a 40-pound bike just around. Probably even more, but but I think that's an interesting aspect to it, because ultimately, you do have to charge, but e-bikes take forever to charge. Just just like
I don't even know. Yeah.
I mean, if you're charging your car, you know, it's going to take a hell of a lot of time. These big old Bosch motors down at the bottom, they aren't these lightweight things anymore. So it's I think that's an interesting aspect of the race that would be fun to like really ask the riders what their plans are.
No.
At 24 hours, if you're gonna have e-bike, you're gonna hear a lot of generators.
Oh yeah. Or they're going to be coming to us demanding power.
Yeah,
you know, which is a lot of them are already talking about. Not e-bike riders, but people are already talking about, where am I going to charge my Garmin? I'm like, you fucking asshole. Jeez, come on. I'm a bad race director. I'm going to be a terrible race director because I'm going to be just like, are you sitting?
Do you want me to wipe your ass? Hard line in the sand. Do not cross.
Do you want me to wipe your ass for you little baby? You know, come here and I'll clean up your poo-poo.
Except with you knowing so much, you'll be like, actually, your Garmin lasts for technically 24 hours.
Not
so
Garmin. My old Garmin didn't, but yeah.
Depends on the year, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And it also seems sometimes, and it's seeing the interesting responses on Facebook that we posted, where there's a core group of people out there who are so anti e-bike that they are just, it almost seems like they're a good thing. They're the kind of people who will say all bikes are good. Everybody, don't judge somebody for being a bike rider. But then when it comes to an e-bike, they're just like, no, fuck them. You know, and it's like, they're all bikes are good, but just until they get in the way of my ego. And then all of a sudden it's a bad thing. And, you know, I don't want people passing me in the middle of the night. Well, fuck you, dude. Relax.
You're not that fast.
Yeah. I get, you know, although, fuck, I can't chase an e-bike down. They're hard shit to chase down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, you know, and I think we're not to be a spoiler alert, but I think we're leaning away from it. I think we're going to try and resist a little bit longer to the trend. I think they're great, but I think when you want to go out and do a race, maybe you, in this case, either you enter a separate race you are just on e-bikes on the course at that given time. But if you're mixing and matching, it's going to be a little bit of a clusterfuck.
Let somebody else, other promoters, suffer the groin pains.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. The cost of cycling. Last week we talked about affordability. We talked about technology and the rush to innovate. We talked about what is being lost. Should there be a middle ground? What other sports have held to other technology while continuing to innovate? Are some of the questions I have here. So just to recap, we were talking about electronic shifting. We were talking about the fact that not entry level, but good quality bikes within a specific line are starting at $7,000 to $8,000. And how we're pricing this sport out of affordability for most people. I think some of the people sitting around this very console at this given point in time. So what is being lost in your guys' opinions, and what do we have any potential solutions on? I'm going to get into the specifics here, but just a generic statement in terms of where we're headed and what is at stake here.
I mean, so I'll tell a bit of a story to kind of preface where my mindset is going. I guess to begin, I'm a preschool teacher. It's not like I'm making a hell of a lot of money. So there's that. And cycling's expensive as hell. And I remember my girlfriend recently, she bought a car. So congratulations to her. But she looked at me and told me the price of it. And she said, "How much was your bike?" And I didn't respond because I knew that it was more than that damn car.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it looks like a brand new car if you're around it. But the thing is, why should my bicycle, if we're really getting down to it, I know what's on it and I know how valuable that stuff is.
Sure.
But a bicycle, a thing that was originally designed for a mode of transportation, costs more than a vehicle that has way more stuff than I could ever hope to understand inside of that car. I don't know. I just think that is a ridiculous thing. I don't think we should ever be at that point where we should be worrying about, does my bike cost more than my car? Because ultimately,
I think that's a Velominati rule, isn't it?
Your bike should cost
the
more
bike
than
should on the car should be worth more than the car.
I've been there many, many years.
Yeah.
That situation.
I just think I don't know. I think it's a ridiculous thing that is the world we live in, and I know that it's the electronic and the disc brakes and all that stuff. I mean, it is different carbon than we used 10 years ago, if we're really thinking about it. So, I think it shouldn't be as expensive as it is.
Yeah, there's a good article in Cycling Tips that people should read, and one of it is sustainability.
Absolutely, yeah.
These things are planned obsolescence. The thing is, what are you going to do with these old derailleurs? Even I had teammates that bought a BMC in 2012, the same year I did. I went mechanical, and they went with Di2 Ultegra, and they loved it. They didn't have. There's a few problems, hiccups here and there. My bike weighed, to me, because I'm a crappy climber, I don't need to pack any more weight. Mine was like 2 pounds lighter because of my choice of gear. And it was something I could work on. And both of them had problems at some point within about 3 years with charging, the electrical problems. And now it's progressed. It's not as bad. And they paid a little bit more than I did. I had Ceram Red, and they had Ultegra.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still running that same gear.
And they're all on something new.
Yeah. They're already progressed. Both of them. One's on Super Record EPS at Clinago with lightweight wheels.
Good gig if you can find it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, power to them. I don't have a problem. But, if you can afford that, that's great.
Yeah.
But in that article in Cycling Tips, there's no in between now. It's like there's no. What if I just want a light bike that I can work on, and this integrated stem, hiding the cables becomes so fashionable that it takes. I watched a YouTube, and I can't remember who it was. Some guy from Australia, and he was having it repaired. He's putting a new set of wheels on, but they had to bleed the brakes. And this mechanic says it takes me about an hour and a half to make sure everything, all the hoses, just to take that apart. Change out the calipers if he's changing the caliper, and it's like, so what's the cost if you take it to a bike shop? What's their hourly rate?
Yeah.
Just to put new hoses in when you're changing things out. I mean, not just the cost of the bike, but to repair that bike.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because we are at a stage from COVID. There's a lot of people who are introduced into bicycles, and not that all of them will want to race, but they're going to go, what is it going to cost to take a race bike? Entry level with like Rival, which is going to weigh probably close to 20 pounds, like my Steel Conago did back in 1989. And it's going to cost them about $4,000.
Yeah.
And my Conago in 1989 cost me probably about $2,500.
Yeah.
But of course, inflation is probably, and that had Campy record on it. So
reminds me. I mean, across the board. I mean, it reminds me of Porsche. I can't believe I'm pulling out Porsche as a car thing, but yeah, exactly. But to modern day Porsches, to get the oil change, you have to drop the engine.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you have to drop the engine out of it, and the cost associated with that, it's got to be through the fucking roof. So let's kind of start with componentry. We know there isn't anything wrong with mechanical shifting. We know there's nothing wrong with rim brakes, or even hell, if you want to go total old man on this, there's nothing wrong with toe clips and straps. Fucking works, right? How can component manufacturers, in our opinions, justify continuing to create old tech? Is there a market and a sustainability for old tech, or is it innovate or die?
I don't know. I think that you can innovate but keep it around, because there is clearly, as we're seeing, a place for all of this different type of stuff. Sagan used. He didn't do very well. But he used mechanical shifting in Paris-Roubaix.
He crashed on that one pretty bad.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Disc brakes. Anyway, no. I'm just kidding.
But and also we're seeing that Ineos did not make the switch. They just did for Paris-Roubaix. So it's like there is something there. But I also think that a group set like Shimano 105, which does have a disc brake range, is extremely attractive, because I've had 105 for 8 years, never changed a thing, and it doesn't skip one beat on that track. I've never done anything. I've put chain grease on it. We've cleaned things, never done anything, and it works beautifully. It shifts beautifully. So I think that things like that can work for so long, to a point where you can upgrade. Yeah, I'll always say Ultegra is the way to go, or like what's the second? Force is always the way to go.
Yeah,
that's where I'll always stand. But
I just don't get it why there's this innovate or die mentality. Yet I guarantee there would be a sustainable. I can't guarantee, but it just seems like there would be a sustainable market for this old tech to continue to manufacture this old tech.
Well, I think that boils down to.
I'm not in the industry though, so I don't understand price versus demand and manufacturing.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you would think once it's all set up, componentry is all based on what drives it is what's selling OEM when you sell on bikes and stuff, and so the need for, if you make an innovation switch to when somebody sees a integrated bar stem situation, it looks pretty cool. In the long run, everything else looks archaic. But I'll bring Specialized, since they had the problem with their SL7. What's it, Athos?
Athos, yeah.
That, did you know I believe Casper Askren changed in the middle of the tour to one of those bikes. For what reason, I don't know. But he switched to, and that has cables on the outside. Now it's disc brake and everything, but for whatever reason, now it's a way lighter bike. It's 6.8 kilos, disc brake bike. But in order to get that, there's less aero. There's not the integration. And the big push from the time I was racing is the lightest bike that could sustain the punishment that you put out. And all of a sudden, once we hit that, there's people, manufacturer complaining 6.8. We can break that. I mean, Trek was one of them. We can get like a sub 6 kilo bike that's safe. But UCI said no. And now you don't hear them screaming at all. In fact, they don't want you to bring it up because they've gone the other direction. Everything's aero, and then disc brakes, which adds some weight. That would destroy everything that they've built up to. So it's what sells. If they can get the guys racing on the weekend that people watch, that's what's gonna. It's an old car racing thing.
Sure.
What wins on Sunday sells on Monday.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what it is. And you see Specialized in Paris-Roubaix started off with clincher tires. Not one finished with clincher.
Shit.
Yeah, they were all on tubulars at the end. They had to either wheel change it or change the bike for whatever reason. But that was Specialized. They're heavily Specialized sponsored, and that's their flagship team. So,
and it's we could. I'm just trying to fill this middle market consumer realm that you could could you build a bike if the world was perfect? Could you build a bike that could be real world race ready on a realistic budget with old school tech made by modern manufacturers? I mean, and would that bike be a bike that would sell? I mean, the present company excluded because, I'm not going to spend more than $7 or $8 grand for a bike. I don't think ever. I can't justify it. I mean, $7 and $8 grand, it makes me embarrassed to say I'm going to spend that much on a bike. That's a fuck ton of money. I just don't understand that somebody's going out there spending $12,000, $15,000 on a bike. But there should be that market. That market of that $12,000 and $15,000 bike should exist.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. If somebody wants to go out and grab a Pinarello Dogma with full campy, deep carbon rims, everything like that, wax chain, whatever else, Bluetooth fucking derailleur, whatever it works, they could spend 18 grand on that. I understand that. I don't understand why there's not a market understanding that you could probably build a pretty damn good quality race bike with a steel frame, a good modern day built steel frame. You could build it with aluminum. You could build it around it. You could build a good quality set of wheels. You could put a 105 Grupo on it, and you could probably have a bike for around $2 to $3 grand. Why isn't that? Why isn't that a void that's being filled in the market?
Well, you want to know. I don't know. This came to me right when the topic was brought up. But a brand like Canyon is a very interesting brand.
Sure.
So we were all having a conversation about this the other day through text. And one of the Packfiller is considering buying one of them. And so when this person, well, I'll just say it. When Jack brought it up, Dad, you said that I knew a lot about Canyon. And I do know a lot about the brand, but I didn't know the prices. And I looked later that night when I was talking about it, and I saw that their CFSLX is a $3 grand bike.
Really?
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, what is that cutting out the middleman really doing? Because as much as
what components are on that, do you know?
So I think that's going to be a mechanical Ultegra at that point, which
Shimano's not going to make anymore.
Yeah, which is going to be tough. However, I think you can spec Ultegra Di2 on it, which takes it up a level. Yeah, CFSLX. But I just find that it's a very interesting brand because it does take out that middleman, and they can lower their prices so much that their top end bike is ultimately we'll round up and say a $10,000 bike. However, BMC can make a second tier bike for $7 grand. And they only do direct through shop or a dealer. And I'm not saying skip your shop in whatsoever form. But it is interesting that they can be so much more for the people in a way, because they do skip that middleman. I don't know. It's an interesting brand.
Here is CF SLX 8 with ETAP, SRAM Force, 5,599.
See, that's a competitive price for ultimately you're going to get a lower grade carbon.
SRAM Red, 75.99.
Is that the same frame set?
Crazy.
Same frame.
Like
with DT Swiss ARC 1100s on it. That's a higher end wheel on that 7,500 bike.
Of course. Once you move up Grupo, you're gonna everything.
Yeah.
See, that's crazy because I have a second tier BMC, and in and around that price range is where mine fell. But you're gonna get a top of the end group set with maybe a lower end frame set, but you're still getting a carbon fiber frame set for. You're not going to feel much difference on the top end. So that is very interesting to me that can be done.
This is the ultimate CFSLX. I don't know the difference. Maybe I'm.
Oh, the ultimate is their lightweight bike.
Oh, so that's the ultimate. That's 75.
Not Aero. Yeah. So it's too bad Jack's not here, because his conundrum is, he wants a lighter bike, and he doesn't care if it's Aero or not, or whether it has hidden cables, but he can get a really good bike with mechanical and disc brakes or rim brakes. You can actually probably find some. I don't know if Canyon even has any on their line now. But
when's that going to be gone, though?
Yeah, so, he could probably find because I think Canyon, even if he went with Canyon, a newer, probably has not been sold rim brake one, and he's got wheels that he could probably use. But now
how many years are we away? How many years are we away from not being able to find any wheels? Rim brake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're there.
What?
I think we're there.
Oh no.
You do?
I've got like a lead on so many wheel sets for rim brakes.
But how hard did you have to work for that?
Easy. It's you can go to Pro Closet. People are dumping them.
But people are getting rid of them. They're not manufacturing
exactly.
them unless you're talking to a local.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all that. That's the thing. It's just going to trickle down. There's always going to be people like me. Until my frame breaks, I can't afford a $7,000 bike right now.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I don't crash and ruin my frame, because all these parts people are dumping them. Yeah. People are dumping these parts. I could stock up forever.
You'd be good.
And
you'd be
I
like
even
a crazy old lady with toilet paper 18 months ago in March.
That's right. He's a hoarder of all rim brake bikes.
Rim brake bikes.
All 58s.
Paul's got all the brake pads in the United States. And I'm keeping them too, you motherfucker.
Bear him with me.
And well, continuing on, we look at non-bike items. We look at helmets costing over $300, shoes at over $500, a cycling kit. Forget about it, right? Unless you're buying from the Packfiller store.
Good band.
Are there any cost-cutting items you'd be willing to use? In terms of a helmet or in terms of shoes and things like that. I will never skimp on shoes.
Yeah, there are two things in my mind. I think shoes, because I never really realized how much of a difference a carbon fiber sole makes. Oh my God, it's a different game altogether.
Yeah.
However, there are some very high quality budget shoes that you can find.
Sure.
But the other thing is helmets. I get that they are expensive, but how many brains do you get? You get one.
Yeah.
Right? We only get one of those. So we might not want to screw around with those. That's why I will always pay the price tag of what Pac will charge.
He's a pot guy.
Yeah. But like Giro,
look at the size of his noggin.
Yeah,
So, hey,
seriously.
I
I
Like
gotta
an
get
orange on the teeth.
Mine's gigantic too, but I can
Huge
fit it.
pillow.
in
Go
Giro.
cry yourself
Yeah.
asleep on your huge pillow.
However, if you want some good glasses for cheap,
Yeah.
Oh,
we know where to go.
I'm going to get to that.
Oh.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to use that here in a second. And the next thing I'm talking about is the cost of the sport itself. Entry fees are pretty fucking high. We could probably all agree.
Yeah.
Yes, people, race promoters need to insure. They need to staff. They need to entice people to attend the event with fucking cookies and medals and and beer pint glasses and things like that. A Fondo now is over $200, right?
Jesus.
What do you expect in return for your money when you enter a race?
I don't know. I think that when we signed up for Belgian Waffle, which is kind of funny because ultimately between a Fondo that we were planning on doing and Belgian Waffle, there wasn't really much financial difference.
No, not at all.
And one provided much more accommodation, I would imagine, than the other.
You can pick on one or the other. It's okay. Which one was shit by comparison?
He's not
in your
announcing
ideas?
the one.
I think at Belgian Waffle we would have gotten much more than we did at the Coeur d'Alene Fondo.
Really? I don't think we used as much as we did because when you're racing a Fondo, you're not receiving the perks as much. You're not stopping. You're not enjoying the food
Yes.
stops. You're just grabbing, shoving shit down your face and riding to the next stop.
But I think that in terms of before, during, and after, one provided much more than the other would have.
Sure. Okay.
For
okay.
ultimately not that much of a financial difference.
Okay. I can agree with you.
Yeah.
Paul, I mean, when you enter a race, do you have any expectations for a value versus price?
Yeah, I do. While Jackson was talking, I went off into space. No. I was sitting there thinking, why is it that like Fondos and the Belgian Waffle Ride, those don't intrigue me because it really is a race and it's not anything more than even like our TNT that we kind of experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, to me, when you have a governing body and rules that are labeled down and there's officials and makes it official, then you can really say, this is the real deal. I'm actually racing.
Really? Okay.
That's in my mind. And so, I think about, the races that I do. There is a sense of gratification or disappointment, however I finish. If I finish low on a sanctioned race, I'm pretty disappointed. If it's a Grand Fondo or something, it's like, well, just had a bad day. It's just an expensive training day. And I don't know why I have that frame of mind, but that's what it is. I think maybe part of it is there's a point system. There's mine-like people that want to win, as opposed to Grand Fondos. There's some people who just want to have a good time, which is not a bad thing. But I want to compare myself and challenge myself with people that are like, no, I'm going to freaking make you suffer or whatever. I mean, that's what.
And you're starting with them in that group,
and
with a specific focus of
exactly,
yeah,
as opposed to going past somebody towing their kid on a cart, which is cool, but they don't have the same purpose. But
so Jackson, you brought him up. I was gonna bring Gooder into this because I didn't. You notice I haven't mentioned them, and I'm not. This isn't an intentional plug. When I was writing out the notes for this, I talk about all the stuff that costs so much. Gooder's a company that has taken something that is usually absolutely insane price, and they've made it incredibly affordable. I'm not going to say, I don't want to insult a sponsor, but I'm not going to say that Gooder's the most absolutely amazing, high-quality, prescription-quality sunglasses I've ever put on my face. They are great. They fit comfortably. The lenses are great. I can switch them in and out, and they're fun, and they work incredibly well for me. If I put another, $300 pair of glasses on my face, am I going to notice a difference? Yeah, I probably am. And again, this is nothing against our friends at Gooder. They've been a sponsor of this show for a long time, and I don't want to make them think that I'm yelling at them. But they have figured out a niche, a void to fill in the industry that needs to be filled. Affordable sunglasses that work great, that you can afford and not cry if they fall off your face in the middle of a race, right? Yeah. Right?
Like a pair of Oakleys.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to throw them under the bus. But
sure, they're insane. You're paying $400 or $500 for a pair of sunglasses. That's asinine. And I love that. If I had a pair of Gooders fall off my helmet last year, and I was like, actually, I would have been more stressed now because they were the style that is no longer, they're not making anymore. So that for me, it's gone up so much, right? Yeah. But they have filled that niche, that piece of the pie. So let's create the perfect world. to close out the show. Let's create a perfect world, and let's create the gooders for everything in the bike racing world. Okay, so in a perfect world, how much would you pay for a 3-stage race? Just the racing. Just estimate. Pick a price. What would you pay, Paul, for a 3-stage, 1-weekend stage race? If Tour de Bloom was this weekend, and you could pick the price, what would you realistically pay for that?
I have a number in mind.
Okay,
but I'm afraid my wife would say, "Oh no, you're not." I would pay up to $300.
Okay,
yeah, easy.
$100 a race, kind of a thing. Okay,
that's Grand Fondo's over that.
Oh yeah,
per day.
Sure,
yeah,
sure. Any swag you taking home?
No, I don't. Swag doesn't
do it
entice
for you.
me.
Doesn't do it for you.
No, it's like I threw away T-shirts from swag.
Sure.
And
I
got
got a room
sick
full
on
of
so
them
many
already.
hammer gels that I quit.
Jackson, higher or lower?
Way lower.
Way lower. What would you pay for a 3-stage race?
Because I've been in the sport competitively for such a little amount of time, $100.
$100?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd go probably right in between where you guys are. I'd go about $150 to $200 for a 3-stage race. It just seems about right. How much for a single event? Jackson, you get to go first. For a single event, like a Fondo.
Like a Fondo. Oh, I'd probably pay $75.
$75. Paul?
$25.
$25.
Now, same question. Do you have it on the list as a race?
No. Okay, so or a single race.
Single race, I'd pay up to $50.
Up to 50.
I'd double that, yeah.
I'm thinking of our Wednesday night races. They're about $25. That's for a weeknight race.
Yeah.
I remember when they were $5.
Well, it depends on the competition. For a local, I don't pick
local weeknight race.
Yeah, that would be $25.
Yeah.
But if I was going out of town, Vance Creek or independent,
I'd pay $50 for something like
easy.
that. Yeah. And I'd pay $25 for a local race. I guess I guess that's not too steep. How much for a pair of good quality cycling shoes that feel good to you, Jackson?
I'll compare it to soccer. $200.
$200.
That's
Paul?
how much my.
That's about my level too.
200. I was going to go up to 3. I was going to go up to 300 for a pair of cycling shoes. I would do that.
Yep.
How much for a good quality helmet that you're happy with that it has proper ventilation? You only got one brain.
I said it before. I'd pay $1,000 for that.
I don't. $1,000 for a helmet?
It is never something that would ever be created. But like I said, you don't get
what?
I know it's crazy, but like
what are you doing, you moron?
I wouldn't.
He's rolling his eye at me like, "Fuck you, Dad."
No. I'm saying like realistically, would I pay that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But,
However, like I said,
important.
it's such an important thing. You
Sure.
don't get another one of these.
Yeah.
I would pay the most amount to get the best protection I could.
God, I take it back. I take back my insults of you. Although it makes good radio.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd pay that much, but
No, for me it would be. It's not so much safety. I think everybody has a pretty good, handle on the safety. One's slightly better than the other. Like when Bontrager or Trek came out with that Wave Tech that like a turd.
Yeah.
To me, it's a fit. There's very few, and nothing's worse. And the first helmet I bought because of Alan McCormick had it was a Monarch. Remember those?
Oh God, yeah. Holy shit.
It was the worst helmet. And then I got a Veta, and that was like my head was like being cooked. Yeah. And then I got into Giro, which had the most sizes. You didn't have to stuff pads. You remember you had to have pads on it, and to me I would pay up to a good fitting helmet that I don't notice it's on there up to $300.
Yeah, I'd probably go up to $300 too.
I've gotten to that
Yeah.
with POC, and POC is ultimately $300.
Yeah. Okay, how about if you could not ride the bike you had and your budget was suddenly screwed over? Tell me the material of the frame, the componentry, and the wheels, and the weight, and the total price you would be willing to go out there and ride every day. And I'll start. I would ride a steel frame if I had to. I would ride a modern day steel frame, which are probably not cheap. Probably not cheap at all, but there are several of them out there.
Do you know somebody can build one?
Do I?
Yeah. You.
Yeah, shit.
Build
I
your
can
own,
build
you
one.
idiot.
Yeah,
Just buy some
I sold most of my
tubes.
shit. I sold most of my stuff, but yeah. I forgot. I'm a frame builder. Componentry. I would not go below 105. I'm gonna say it. I would not go below 105.
Is there below?
Sure. Oh God, yes. Yeah. There's like 7 or 8 layers below 105.
Yeah.
There's Ace, Eris, or whatever the fuck they call them, and all kinds of stuff like that.
Cerrone or
about
whatever.
Centaur. That's kind of gas camping.
We don't know because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't.
They're
look
not
at it.
real.
It doesn't exist. Yeah, yeah. Wheels. Shit, I'd ride just about anything for wheels. I'd ride a 36-hole wheel, but because I know that weight is one thing. But if I had to go out and ride, I'd go out and ride on a good old-fashioned set of Mavic
GP4
Axioms.
Oh, Axioms.
Yeah, that's what I have, I think, for my spare set. They're heavy, too. GP4s, yeah. Weight, I would want to keep it under 20. Definitely under 20 pounds. I guess that's the farthest I would go. And for a total price, the lowest I would go, the lowest I could imagine going for a good quality bike that I would actually enjoy going out and riding, I would probably be the $2,500 mark. I'm going to guess it's going to be the lowest I would go out there and do. You guys got any guesses? You want to play this game?
Yeah, so I think I would not go with steel because I rode. If you didn't know that we did this little Belgian waffle ride thing.
Yeah. You were on steel.
Yeah, for 131 miles. And holy hell, that thing weighs a ton. So I would go up to aluminum.
Okay.
I rode an alloy frame for a good amount of time. Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was great the entire time. It didn't weigh that much, so I would do an aluminum frame. And especially with the welds that they have now.
Yeah.
It's high quality stuff you can get that doesn't really look much different from carbon. Wheels, I would also do an alloy aluminum wheel set. I have a pair of Bontrager wheels that Roger Thompson gave me. Yeah.
We're out of drinks. We're out of
I'm going to drink my
gulp.
backwash.
Yeah.
But those are bladed spoke. They're way lighter, and they're high quality frames that are not frames, but wheels that are not gonna just bust.
Yeah.
So I would go with something like that, and they're kind of like a box frame. They're not deep. They are what they are, and I loved them for when I had them. But for the price range, I think honestly, if I were to buy a bike right now, I would have to spend in like at max the 3,000 range.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Canyon before, and they do a gravel bike that was ridden at Unbound this year that you
in
can
that range.
Exactly on that 3,000 mark. So it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need to pick up Canyon as a sponsor apparently because we talk about them on the show. Yeah. If you're listening, Canyon,
Yeah.
They're German.
we got your love.
Just letting
We
you
all know.
Yeah, you could talk to them.
Yeah.
In their native tongue.
Yeah. Paul, what would your affordable bike be?
Well,
What's button number A? There's a little delay on that.
Yeah.
Shit, I suck at the soundboard.
So, through the years, probably the biggest outside of clipless pedals, weight is a big thing.
Yeah.
And noticing the difference. And my BMC now is right at UCI level. I don't want to sacrifice that. I don't care how aero it is, because to me, even in a race, how often am I out front? I've had a few solo, wins, but most of them are a small group or something like that. So the aero advantage is not really there. You're getting some.
You're in dirty air anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So that's never really intrigued me. So I would go that way. So I would look at, for a used bike, about $4,000. The highest level, if I went SRAM, I'd like to see red mechanical. I don't like the lack of maintenance on electronic stuff. I don't even care if it's disc. If I can get down to that 6.8, I really don't care. But right now, that's not, unless you spend $12,000, $13,000, you're not going to get a disc brake down there. So wheels wise, that's the advantage again with rim brakes. If you had heavy wheels in the past and you're trying to turn those over out of a corner or climbing up a hill, God, that's why disc brakes always seems like we're going backwards here. The whole idea behind some of the push with disc brakes is that everybody wanted carbon wheels, and majority of the people run rim brakes. And so what was happening is those, the brake surface and brake track, they're delaminating. That was a problem. Well, if you put disc brakes, then you can get your carbon brake. But why did we want carbon wheels is because they were lighter, more aerodynamic. You could use less spokes. Now we have more spokes, more weight. Yeah. So what did we gain with this brake system other than I can say I have carbon wheels? The advantage of... Anyway, I could go
total price, you were saying?
I would say $4,000 I would spend. And I would try and go, whether it's Shimano, I mean, 105 is good performing stuff, but I don't think you're going to hit that 6.8.
Yeah.
With 105, maybe Ultegra, maybe.
Yeah.
So
I think what we're coming to the conclusion is there needs to be a lot more $4,000, $2,000 to $4,000 bikes available, and I think that's a gigantic void that's potentially being phased out in the industry. I could be wrong. I'm not. I don't. We should have had the Diva on this for the show, where he could probably give us some perspective on that. It just seems like that piece of the pie is slowly being phased out, and we're creating a sport made for elitist people with money. And I hope that isn't the case. And I guess we as consumers and you guys out there listening, all we can do is find a way to create an uproar, in any way possible. I'm not, this isn't January 5th. I'm not asking you to go to the Capitol and storm a building and break things down tomorrow. But I am saying, talk to your local shops, talk to your manufacturers, email them or something like that, and say, hey, I don't know how to do it. How do you approach something like this? How do you make a change in an industry that is so focused on innovation and profitability? I don't know.
Well, I can semi-answer that question. I guess we've had this podcast. I think there's probably a lot of people. You had a response from Terry Prime.
Yeah.
He sent you a note saying, this is
I had a lot of people responded to me. Yeah, about
that was one that you brought up, and since he's a friend of the podcast, I thought.
Yeah.
But, then you have, like, even cycling tips, James Wong made a statement in his, the latest podcast on Nerd Alert, and, there is a hole, and hopefully the industry listens, because I would like to see younger people. If think about Jackson, what if he started off and said,
"Holy shit,"
what are you going to do? I mean, he's 14, 15 years old,
He's going to outgrow the bike. What am I going to get you on?
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And Bart Bowen on the show several years ago, he said a junior program should be all aluminum bikes, same gear and everything. I think that's a great idea.
And a $2,000 price point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what every kid should be on, maximum. Yeah. And I think it would change the game. There we go. I don't know if we came to any conclusions. We just approached them. E-bikes, oh boy, that's never going away. And shit's just going to keep getting more expensive. There you go, you guys. Thanks for listening. Be sure and tell a friend, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and don't forget, like I said, we're live. We do this show live. Galloway thinks I'm insane for doing it live, but we do it live.
Well, he's listened.
Yeah, and I don't edit the mistakes. The times when I drop an F-bomb or something like that. Because if I did, I'd be editing the whole show. There you go. You guys go out there, message your manufacturers. Let's see if we can, start a revolution. But a good one, a peaceful one, not the shitting in Nancy Pelosi's office, that kind of stuff. That's how I'm ending the show.